The Tauri ship materialized above Earth's atmosphere with little warning, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. Global defense systems immediately locked onto the vessel, but no hostile action followed. Instead, a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. "We come seeking assistance. Please help us." General Elena Reyes stood at the United Nations Security Council chamber window, watching the alien ship hovering in low orbit via the enhanced display. At 52, she'd spent 3 decades in military service, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. First contact had finally arrived, not with a bang, but with a plea. "They've been in orbit for 6 hours," said Admiral Chen, joining her at the window, still broadcasting the same message. "And our linguists?" Elena asked. "Working on it. The message came in perfect English, but we're having trouble with their replies. Their language is complex, multiple tonal layers we can't replicate." The Security Council chambers buzzed with activity as representatives from every major nation huddled in emergency session. Scientists and military personnel moved between groups, sharing the limited information they had gathered. "General Reyes," a voice called. Elena turned to see Dr. Haruki Nakamura, the UN's leading xenolinguistics expert. "We've established rudimentary communication. They're requesting landing clearance. 1 ship, 5 representatives." Elena studied the scientist's face. "Your recommendation?" "Granted," Nakamura said without hesitation. "Whatever they're running from, they're desperate." 3 hours later, Elena stood on her runway at Geneva International Airport, watching as the Tauri shuttle descended. Unlike their orbiting mothership, this vessel was small and utilitarian. It touched down silently, a ramp extending before any human could approach. 5 figures emerged, walking with a fluid grace that seemed almost choreographed. They stood slightly taller than the average human, with iridescent blue-gray skin that shimmered under the floodlights. Their faces bore 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller ones above, arranged around a central nostril slit. They wore no apparent clothing, but their bodies seemed covered in natural plates that moved with them. The lead Tauri approached Elena and the assembled delegation. It raised both 7-fingered hands, palms outward in a universal gesture of peace. "I am Ambassador Seleth," it said, its voice melodic, but clearly artificial, coming from a small device at its throat. "We thank you for receiving us in this dire hour." "Welcome to Earth," Elena replied formally. "I'm General Elena Reyes, representing the United Nations Security Council." The meeting room inside the UN headquarters had been hastily prepared. The Tauri sat awkwardly in human chairs, their digitigrade legs not designed for such furniture. Seleth looked exhausted, Elena thought, if she was correctly reading the alien's body language. "We have observed your world for decades," Seleth began, "hoping we would never need to make contact like this. But we face extinction and have nowhere else to turn." Holographic images appeared above the table. Beautiful worlds with architecture that seemed grown rather than built, cities integrated perfectly with their environments. Then the images changed, showing the same worlds burning, crystal structures shattered, and Tauri being herded into ships. "The Drax Collective," Seleth explained, "a species evolved from pack predators. They've subjugated 17 species already. We're the 18th to fall under their expansion. You have technology far beyond ours," pointed out the Chinese representative. "Why come to us?" Seleth's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of sorrow, Elena guessed. "Technology isn't everything when facing the Drax," the ambassador responded. "They breed rapidly, adapt quickly, and possess a single-mindedness we cannot match. Their ships are less advanced than ours, but there are thousands for each one we can field." Seleth paused, mandibles clicking softly. "But most importantly, we Tauri evolved as cooperative creatures. We lack the warrior spirit. And you think we have it?" asked the Russian president, his expression skeptical. "We know you do," Seleth replied. Your history is written in conflict. You prepare for war even in times of peace. You build weapons when no enemy threatens. Most species would view this as primitive barbarism. Most species aren't facing extermination, Elena noted dryly. Precisely, Seleth said. We've studied your world wars, your Cold War mobilization. No species we've encountered can transform their entire society for conflict as rapidly as humans. This ability to unify against threats, it's unique. The Security Council debated through the night. Some nations refused involvement, citing the risks of interstellar war. Others saw opportunity in alien technology. By morning, the vote stood narrowly in favor of intervention. When Elena delivered the news, Seleth's body pulsed with color, the Tauri equivalent of tears. You have saved my people, the ambassador said. Elena shook her head slowly. Don't thank me yet. You asked for help, and we'll give it. But I don't think you understand what that means. Seleth tilted its head. What do you mean? When humans go to war, Elena said, we don't do half measures. The Dracs are about to learn what total war truly means. The United Earth Defense Force was formed within weeks. For the first time in human history, soldiers from every nation trained together under a single command. Colonel Marcus Williams stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Armstrong Station, watching as shuttles ferried troops and supplies from Earth. At 38, with combat experience across 3 continents, Marcus had been selected to lead the 1st Human Combat Battalion. Below him, in the station's massive hangar, human engineers worked alongside Tauri scientists, adapting alien technology for war. Impressive progress, Ambassador Seleth said, joining him at the viewport. Your people have accomplished in weeks what would take the Tauri years. When facing extinction, humans don't waste time with committees, Marcus replied. We get to work. In another section of the station, intelligence officer Sophia Okafor studied Drax combat footage. The aliens moved with frightening speed, their chitinous exoskeletons deflecting most Tauri weapons. There, she said, freezing a frame, the junction between thorax and abdomen. Their armor is thinner there. Her team made notes. They had been working around the clock, learning everything about the enemy they would soon face. Their ships are faster than anything we have, one analyst noted. Speed isn't everything, Sophia replied. We don't need to outrun them. We just need to hit them where it hurts. On Earth, factories that once produced consumer goods were retooled for war production. Farmland was expanded to ensure food security. Children practiced emergency drills in schools. The entire planet mobilized in a way not seen since the 1940s. Ambassador Seleth watched with growing concern as Earth transformed. Is this normal? The alien asked Marcus as they toured a training facility where thousands practiced urban combat. Marcus nodded. This is how humans wage war. But you haven't even met the Dracs yet, Seleth observed. Doesn't matter, Marcus replied. If we're going to fight, we prepare to win at any cost. The words seemed to disturb the ambassador deeply. 2 months into preparation, alarm sirens blared across Armstrong Station. A Drax scout ship had been detected near Jupiter, observing human activity. This is our chance, Admiral Kowalski told her officers. Capture that ship intact. A small strike team led by Marcus launched in a stealth vessel. Using Jupiter's magnetic field for cover, the operation was swift and brutal. 3 humans died, but they secured the Drax ship and 2 live prisoners. Their tech is impressive, Sophia told Admiral Kowalski as they examined the captured vessel. But their tactics are predictable. They rely too much on brute force. Pride, Kowalski said. They've conquered so many worlds they think they're invincible. That will be their downfall, Sophia agreed. On the day the Earth fleet prepared to launch, Admiral Kowalski addressed the 40,000 soldiers under her command. We go to fight an enemy that believes itself superior to all life in the galaxy, she said. They have never faced humans before. They have never experienced total war. We fight not just to win battles, but to end wars. As the fleet prepared to depart, Seleth approached Marcus one last time. We asked for help. The Tauri said quietly. I fear we've unleashed something we don't understand. Marcus's expression was grim. You wanted warriors, he said. That's what you're getting. The first human warfleet in history activated their Tauri-enhanced engines and disappeared into the depths of space, carrying humanity's answer to the Drax threat. The Tauri colony world of Elysium hung in space like a wounded jewel. Once a beautiful azure planet with crystal cities, it now bore ugly scars where Drax mining operations had torn open the surface. Dark smoke rose from processing facilities where Tauri prisoners worked until collapse. In orbit, 12 Drax warships patrolled, their insectoid design mirroring their creators, all sharp angles and weaponized limbs. The Drax believed the system secure. They were wrong. Human ships emerged from hyperspace at precisely calculated points surrounding the planet. Unlike the elegant Tauri vessels or the predatory Drax craft, Earth's warships were blocky and utilitarian, their hulls bristling with weapons. On the bridge of the flagship Retribution, Admiral Kowalski watched the enemy vessels with cold calculation. All ships report ready, Admiral, her communications officer said. Operation Thunderstrike is go, Kowalski ordered. Begin. The human fleet opened fire simultaneously. They had studied Drax shield configurations for weeks and knew exactly where to hit. 5 enemy ships exploded before they could even raise alarms. Ground teams deploy now, Kowalski commanded. Across the human fleet, drop ships launched toward the planet's surface. Major Layla Cowrie sat with her squad, checking her weapon one final time. The former Special Forces operator had trained her team relentlessly for this moment. Remember, she told them, the Drax have never faced humans before. They expect enemies to follow rules. We don't play by their rules. The dropship shuddered as it entered atmosphere. Around them, other vessels were being shot down by ground defenses. Layla watched through the viewport as one exploded in midair. 10 seconds to landing, the pilot shouted. They hit the ground hard. The doors blew open, and Layla led her squad into chaos. The Drax ground forces were terrifying. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor and multiple limbs ending in razor-sharp claws, they moved with frightening speed, but they had never faced human weapons before. Layla fired her rifle, the special ammunition designed by Sophia's team punching through Drax armor at precisely the weak points they had identified. The alien let out a high-pitched shriek as it fell. Move toward the processing facility, Layla ordered. Her squad advanced through Drax defenses using tactics the aliens had never encountered. Where Tauri fought in organized formations, humans used cover, misdirection, and ambush. Where Tauri retreated when outnumbered, humans charged. The fighting was brutal. Layla lost 5 soldiers in the first hour, but they reached the facility where thousands of Tauri were held prisoner. We're from Earth, she told the first blue-skinned alien she encountered. We're here to free you. The Tauri stared at her with 4 wide eyes. Earth? The humans came. Yes, Layla said, cutting restraints from a group of prisoners. Now help us free the others. In orbit, the space battle had become a slaughter. Drax reinforcements arrived only to be caught in Admiral Kowalski's carefully planned trap. Sophia's intelligence had been perfect. The Drax ships were faster and more heavily armed, but their captains were predictable, using the same tactics that had worked against the Tauri. They're retreating, Admiral, Kowalski's tactical officer reported. 3 enemy ships escaping to hyperspace. Let them go, Kowalski ordered. I want them to tell their leaders what happened here. By nightfall, Elysium was secured. Over 5,000 Tauri had been freed from labor camps. The cost had been high, minus 214 humans dead, hundreds more wounded, but the victory was total. Ambassador Seleth, who had accompanied the fleet, walked through the main camp where the rescued Tauri gathered. They looked at the humans with a mixture of gratitude and fear. I had no idea, Seleth said to Marcus, "The way your people fight, this is just the beginning." Marcus replied, "The Dracs wanted an enemy. Now they've got one." Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. Species that had bowed to Drax rule for generations began to whisper a new word: human. In the heart of Drax territory, the High Matriarch received the reports from Elysium with disbelief. These humans, it chittered to its council, mandibles clicking furiously. What kind of species fights like this? No one had an answer. But soon, they would all learn. The Drax High Matriarch stood before the holographic display, its segmented carapace vibrating with fury. 8 more colony worlds had fallen to the humans in the past month. No species had ever inflicted such losses on the collective. These creatures must be exterminated, it declared to the War Council, its voice a series of harsh clicks and chirps. Divert the 3rd and 5th fleets. Find their homeworld. On the liberated Tauri world of Meridian, Dr. Aisha Rahman worked tirelessly with a team of Tauri scientists. The humans had established a temporary research base, while former prisoners rebuilt their crystal cities. Rahman, a xenolinguist and code specialist, had been trying to crack the Drax communication system for weeks. "There's a pattern here," she told her Tauri colleague, pointing to frequency waveforms on her display. "Their language doesn't just use words, it uses harmonics." The blue-skinned alien adjusted its translation device. "Like music." "Exactly," Rahman said with growing excitement. "They're singing to each other." Their breakthrough came just in time. The devices they built could now intercept and translate Drax communications. What they heard chilled them to the core. "They're going to attack Earth," Rahman told Admiral Kowalski via holographic link. 3 massive fleets are already moving. Kowalski's face showed no emotion, but her voice was steel. "How long do we have?" 4 days at most. "We'll never get back in time," Marcus said from beside the Admiral. "No," she agreed. "But Earth isn't defenseless." Back on Earth, the warning triggered an emergency response. Orbital defense platforms that had been under construction were rushed into service. Military units worldwide moved to defensive positions. Civilians headed to underground shelters built during the frantic months of preparation. When the Drax fleets arrived, they expected to find a primitive world, easy to conquer. Instead, they encountered a planet bristling with weapons. The battle for Earth lasted 18 hours. The Drax had numbers and technology on their side, but humans were fighting for their home. The orbital platforms took a terrible toll on the alien ships. When the Drax landed troops, they faced not just soldiers but armed civilians fighting block by block. In low Earth orbit, Lieutenant Commander Javier Diaz commanded the last functioning defense platform. Half his crew was dead, and oxygen was running low. "Target their command ship," he ordered. "Full power to the main gun." The massive energy weapon fired one last time before the platform's reactors failed. The beam cut through the Drax flagship, sending it tumbling toward Earth's atmosphere, where it burned up like a second sun. The remaining Drax ships retreated, but the victory came at a terrible cost. Cities around the world lay in ruins. Millions were dead. The space around Earth was filled with debris from destroyed ships and stations. Meanwhile, Admiral Kowalski had not been idle. Learning of the attack on Earth, she implemented what she called Protocol Scorched Earth. Human forces struck deep into Drax territory, hitting supply bases and shipyards. They didn't try to hold ground. They simply destroyed everything and moved on. Major Layla Cowrie and her squad found themselves trapped behind enemy lines on the contested world of Nexus. They had been conducting sabotage operations when their extraction ship was shot down. "We need to keep moving," Layla told her remaining 8 soldiers. "If we stay in one place, they'll find us." For 12 days, they moved only at night, destroying Drax facilities and ambushing patrols. They became ghosts, striking from nowhere and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. The Drax put a price on Cowrie's head, calling her the Shadow Demon. As the war expanded, other species began to join the human-led coalition. Races that had suffered under Drax rule for generations saw a chance for freedom. In the Drax central hive system, the High Matriarch faced growing unrest among its own kind. These humans do not fight like rational beings, it told the War Council. They sacrifice themselves willingly. They attack targets of no strategic value. They destroy resources they could use. And Elder Council members' antennae twitched nervously. Perhaps we made a mistake challenging them. It is too late for such thoughts, the High Matriarch replied. We either destroy them completely, or they will never stop until they destroy us. Across the stars, the war grew. 6 months into the conflict, intelligence officer Sophia Okafor stood in a dark underground chamber on the Tory homeworld. Her flashlight beam played across strange symbols carved into stone walls. Behind her, a team of human archaeologists carefully documented everything. How old did you say this place was? She asked the Tory guide. Over 30,000 cycles, the blue-skinned alien replied. From before our Great Enlightenment. Sophia had been following a trail of odd references in captured Drax communications. They kept mentioning the buried threat when discussing Tory worlds. Now she understood why. The chamber was a weapons vault. Not just any weapons, planet killers. Your people built these? Sophia asked, her voice tight. The Tory looked away. It was a different time. 2 days later, Sophia presented her findings to Admiral Kowalski and Colonel Williams. The holographic images floating between them showed ancient but terrifyingly advanced weapons. The Tory weren't always peaceful, Sophia explained. According to what we found, they once ruled a third of the galaxy. With these weapons, they subjugated dozens of species. Marcus's face darkened, and Ambassador Seleth never mentioned this. I think it's time we had a talk with our allies, Kowalski said. When confronted, Ambassador Seleth's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in distress. There was no point denying the truth anymore. Yes, the alien admitted. Long ago, the Tory Empire was feared throughout the galaxy. We used these weapons to force other species to submit. And the Drax, Marcus demanded, were one of our slave races, Seleth said quietly. When our empire fell and we embraced peace, most species forgave us. The Drax never did. Their attack on us wasn't random. It was revenge, millennia in the making. The revelation spread through human command like wildfire. They had been fighting a war without understanding its true cause. Some argued they should withdraw. This wasn't humanity's ancient grudge to settle. Admiral Kowalski called an emergency council with Earth's leaders and military commanders. After hours of debate, General Elena Reyes spoke the words that would define humanity's path forward. It doesn't matter who started this war 1,000 years ago, she said firmly. The Drax came to our doorstep. They killed millions of our people. We finish what they started. The human war machine shifted focus. If the Drax would not accept peace, humanity would bring an end to the conflict the only way they knew how: total victory. Dr. Aisha Rahman made another breakthrough in her research facility on Meridian. Working with recovered Drax specimens, she discovered something remarkable. Their hive minds are connected through pheromones and synchronized brainwave patterns, she explained to Sophia during a secure transmission. But there's a frequency that disrupts this connection. It essentially gives them sensory overload. Can we weaponize it? Sophia asked immediately. Rahman's expression was troubled. Yes, but it would be devastating. Without their hive connection, they'd experience something like mass psychosis. Entire colonies would tear themselves apart. Send me everything, Sophia replied grimly. 3 weeks later, a small human fleet approached the Drax homeworld, Nexus Prime. Unlike previous assaults, they came with just 6 ships. But these vessels carried a weapon unlike any before. The Drax defenses were massive. Hundreds of warships formed a protective shell around their sacred world. They anticipated a large human fleet and had prepared accordingly. Instead, the 6 human vessels deployed thousands of small drones, each broadcasting on the precise frequency Rahman had identified. As the drones dispersed through the Drax fleet, the effects were immediate and catastrophic. Ship after ship fell silent as crews turned on each other. Weapons systems fired wildly or not at all. The carefully coordinated Drax defense collapsed into chaos. On the command ship Retribution, Admiral Kowalski watched the sensor readings with a stony expression. "Target their central hive complex," she ordered. "Prepare negotiation terms for broadcast." On Nexus Prime, the High Matriarch felt its connection to the hive mind fracturing. For the first time in its long life, it experienced true isolation and terror. A human transmission cut through the chaos. "This ends now. Surrender, and you live. Continue, and we deploy this weapon on every Drax world." The High Matriarch looked at its trembling counselors, each struggling with the same mental disintegration, and made the only choice it could. The surrender ceremony took place on neutral ground, a barren moon orbiting a gas giant at the border of Tauri and Drax space. Ambassador Seleth and the High Matriarch signed the treaty while Admiral Kowalski and General Reyes witnessed for humanity. The terms were harsh but not genocidal. The Drax would withdraw from all conquered territories. A demilitarized zone would separate them from both human and Tauri space. Reparations would be paid to all affected species. As the ceremony concluded, the High Matriarch addressed Kowalski directly. "Why did you not destroy us?" it asked, mandibles clicking softly. "You had the means." "Because that's not who we choose to be," Kowalski replied. "Humans can wage total war, but we prefer total peace. Remember that, if you ever consider breaking this treaty." 1 year after the war's end, a new galactic council convened on Earth. Representatives from 27 species gathered to establish mutual defense and trade agreements. General Elena Reyes, now serving as Earth's ambassador, stood at the podium addressing the assembled delegates. "The war with the Drax taught us all an important lesson," she said. "No species exists in isolation. The grudges of the past can poison the future if we let them. But together, we can build something better than any of us could alone." In the audience, Marcus Williams, now Admiral Williams, sat beside Ambassador Seleth. The Tauri turned its 4 eyes toward the human. "When we came to Earth begging for help, we never imagined this outcome," Seleth said. "You've changed the galaxy forever." "That's what humans do," Marcus replied with a slight smile. "We adapt, we evolve, and we never stop pushing forward." Across the stars, species that had never known peace now experienced it for the first time. Trade routes flourished where warships once patrolled. Former enemies worked together, rebuilding shattered worlds. And throughout the galaxy, a new understanding spread. Humans were indeed warriors unlike any other species had encountered. But their greatest strength wasn't their capacity for war. It was their vision for what came after. In the deepest reaches of space, aboard research vessels and diplomatic missions, humans ventured farther than they had ever gone before. They carried with them the lessons of the Drax War. That humanity's place in the cosmos would be defined not just by their willingness to fight when necessary, but by their determination to create lasting peace. And when the next crisis came, as it inevitably would, the galaxy would remember that when the Tauri begged for help, humanity answered not just with the fury of total war, but with the promise of a better tomorrow. On the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, built at the former border between Tauri and Drax space, Dr. Aisha Rahman stood beside Sophia Okafor, watching ships from a dozen worlds pass through the busy trading hub. "Do you ever think about how differently this could have ended?" Rahman asked. Sophia nodded slowly. "Every day. We came so close to becoming what we were fighting against." "That's the real victory, isn't it?" Rahman said. "Not that we won the war, but that we remembered who we are." Below them, human children played alongside young Tauri and, remarkably, a small group of Drax offspring, part of a cultural exchange program. Their laughter echoed through the station, a sound that would have been unimaginable 2 years earlier. "That," Sophia said, pointing to the children, is what we really fought for. In the vastness of space, humanity continued to spread, carrying with them a reputation that made other species approach with both respect and caution. For they had learned what the Dracs discovered too late, that humans could indeed bring overwhelming force when threatened, but they much preferred to offer a helping hand. And across the stars, the story was told of how the Tauri came to Earth begging for mercy, and humanity answered with the full force of war, but also with the promise of enduring peace once the fighting was done. That was humanity's greatest weapon, and their greatest gift to the galaxy.